This video will show the basics of installing ResinDek flooring panels. Note: installation instructions on how to install ResinDek panels with the MetaGard galvanized finish is at the end of this video. Please read and understand the installation instruction manual prior to starting, as this video is not intended to replace the manual. ResinDek flooring panels not installed in accordance with the installation manual will void all warranties. Be sure to follow all applicable safety procedures and to wear required personal protective equipment. Now let's get started. ResinDek should be installed over an approved corrugated metal deck as shown in this video, or an existing mezzanine floor surface. Please confirm corrugated metal deck is properly fastened down per approved installation instructions prior to beginning the installation of ResinDek panels. Please see our instruction manual if you have additional questions. ResinDek panels must be kept dried during transit and storage. Panels should be stored flat and in a level position. Begin your floor installation by reviewing all approved drawings and instructions. If drawings were not provided, begin by using a laser, transit, chalk line, or string to set a true line less than 48 inches from one edge of the mezzanine to align the long edge of the panel. This will allow you to trim panels for proper spacing around the perimeter. If provided, install per installation drawings or stagger the floor panels in a brick pattern as shown. Located on the edge of each ResinDek panel is a stamped part number. When correctly installed, the stamp will be right side up. While ResinDek panels can be laid parallel to the corrugated metal deck, perpendicular is the preferred direction. Make sure the panels are installed with the correct surface on top. To avoid weak joints that may damage your floor, take caution to lay the panels down with the joints over the ribs whenever possible. Panels must be cut back or placed on top of a minimum 6-inch wide 20-gauge valley shim when ResinDek panels break on a valley. These valley shims can be obtained from Cornerstone specialty wood products. Placing ResinDek panel joints on valleys without proper valley shims will void your warranty. ResinDek panels are a wood-based product and may expand over time. Therefore, you must leave a 3/8 inch gap on the outer edges of the floor and a 1/8 inch minimum gap between ResinDek panels. Attached to each ResinDek bundle is a package that includes installation instructions and 3 1/8 inch thick metal panel spacers. Between all adjacent panels, insert the metal spacers, 2 along the long edge and 1 along a short edge, to ensure proper gapping between the panels. Failure to use the metal panel spacers may allow the floor to buckle and will void all warranties. It is essential to trim the last row of panels to allow a 3/8 inch gap along the outer edges of the ResinDek floor perimeter. You can trim ResinDek panels to size with a circular saw. Carbide tip blades are recommended for best results. Attach ResinDek panels to the corrugated metal deck using a minimum of 0.625 screws per 1 square foot, which equals 20 screws per 4x8 sheet, as shown here. If your panel has Gray Diamond Seal 2 ESD or TriGuard ESD coating, a minimum of 4 grounding screws will be required per 4x8 panel, which will account towards the minimum screw requirement. Refer to the Gray Diamond Seal 2 ESD and TriGuard ESD installation manual and video for more information. Screws must penetrate both the ResinDek panel and the corrugated metal deck. Failure to use approved screws may void all warranties on ResinDek floor panels. For best results, always use ResinDek screws furnished by Cornerstone specialty wood products. For ease of cleaning, use a white chalk line to mark a grid for locating the screws, making sure to locate all screws a minimum of 1 inch from panel edges. Secure each panel with a minimum of 2 screws before installing the next panel and removing the panel spacers. When fastening panels, use only a screwdriver with a clutch or depth limiter to properly countersink screw heads. Cornerstone Specialty Wood Products recommends and sells a 2500 RPM Senko stand-up screwdriver. Drive screws so that the top is just below the panel surface. Proper screw head depth is critical to performance and appearance of your ResinDek floor. Use caution, as backing out or removing improperly installed screws may cause damage to the panel. There is an envelope attached to the outside of each unit of ResinDek panels that have the MetaGard galvanized finish. Enclosed in the envelope are instructions for installing ResinDek panels with MetaGard, a countersink bit, and 9 MetaGard panel spacers. Note the MetaGard panel spacers are only 1/32 of an inch thick compared to the 1/8 of an inch thick ResinDek panel spacer. Cornerstone Specialty Wood Products and Menards have prepared a detailed ResinDek and ResinDek with MetaGard layout drawing for each store location. Begin your floor installation by reviewing all approved drawings and installation instructions. Standard ResinDek panels are denoted by the letter A, and the ResinDek with MetaGard panels are marked with a letter B and a hash mark as well. The bottom surface of ResinDek with MetaGard has the gray diamond seal 2 coating. Make sure all ResinDek panels with MetaGard are installed with a galvanized surface on top. Install the ResinDek panels with MetaGard in a stack pattern rather than the standard brick staggered pattern. This will prevent the need to field cut ResinDek panels that have the MetaGard surface. Be sure to leave 1/32 of an inch gap between each panel that is adjacent to a ResinDek panel with MetaGard. Insert the MetaGard panel spacers provided, 2 along the long edge and 1 along the short edge to ensure proper gapping between the panels. You will also use the MetaGard 1/32 of an inch panel spacers when a panel with MetaGard is adjacent to a ResinDek panel with gray diamond seal 2 coating. Failure to use the metal panel spacers may allow the floor to buckle and will void all warranties. All joints between standard ResinDek panels should be 1/8 of an inch. All joints between ResinDek with MetaGard should be 1/32 of an inch. And all joints between the two types of panels should also be 1/32 of an inch. All ResinDek panels with MetaGard will require countersinking of the steel top prior to screw installation. Use the countersink bit provided by Cornerstone Specialty Wood Products. Countersink bits are furnished with a preset collar that should provide the proper countersink depth. Shown in this video is a countersink that is too shallow, too deep, and just right. Please be sure to install these to the proper depth. When the countersink is at the proper depth, the screw should look like this. Attach ResinDek panels to the corrugated metal deck using a minimum of 0.625 screws per 1 square foot, which equals 20 screws per 4 feet by 8 feet sheet. After ResinDek with MetaGard has been installed, standard ResinDek panels can be field cut to fit around the panels with MetaGard. Remember that field cuts will result in a square edge joint between the two types of panels. Be sure that this joint is either square edge to square edge or square edge to groove. Avoid any square edge to tongue joint by trimming tongues from panels at the junction between panel types. Any edge joint that falls in a valley of the B-deck should be supported by a valley shim. Please visit our website or contact us for additional information.